The lights on the stage were turned down, creating a warm golden glow that illuminated the small club in Los Angeles. Their murmurs blended with the faint clink of glasses and the occasional ripple of laughter that could be heard throughout the gathering. The crowd was buzzing with expectation. While Sofronio Vasquez was standing backstage, his heart was beating at a rate that was comparable to the vigorous tempo of the jazz band that was warming up the audience. Tonight was not simply another performance. Rather, it was a reunion, a moment of complete and utter reconnection with the individual who had altered the course of his life. Michael Bublé, his coach from The Voice. When Sofronio was a candidate 2 years ago, he was a timid individual. He was a Filipino-American singer from a little town in California, and his voice had the ability to transform from a buttery crooner to a soulful powerhouse in a single breath. His blind audition had been a gamble. He had made the courageous decision to sing Bublé's own Home in a manner that paid tribute to the original, while also incorporating his own cultural inspirations. In the moment when Bublé's chair turned, Sofronio's world began to rock. "You took my song and made it yours, kid," the Canadian superstar said when he smiled and expressed his sincere admiration for the young musician. That was the spark that ignited Sofronio's confidence, and it was expressed as "that's magic." Now that he was standing in the wings, Sofronio fixed the cufflinks on his fitted suit, which was a far cry from the blazer he had worn during his days on The Voice, which he had purchased from a thrift store. With a debut album that was climbing the charts and a tour that had sold out tiny venues across the West Coast, he had gone a long way since then because he had accomplished a lot. But things were different tonight. Bublé had extended an invitation to him to perform at a unique charity performance, which was a night devoted to supporting music education for children and adolescents from disadvantaged backgrounds. Additionally, a personal letter was sent with the invitation, which said, "Let's make some magic again, Sofronio." As soon as the band began playing the first few notes of "Feeling Good," which was Sofronio's cue, he took a deep breath and stepped into the spotlight. Despite the fact that the audience surged, his eyes looked for a single face. Michael Bublé was there, sitting in the first row, and his signature charisma was emanating even from the audience. Sofronio felt the nerves melt away as Bublé gave him a nod, that same encouraging smile that he had given him 2 years ago. His voice was so high that it filled the room with a warmth that encircled each and every person who listened to it. In the deep inflections and improvisational runs that had become his specialty, he leaned into the song, allowing his Filipino ancestry to shine through in the way that he played it. There was a swaying of the audience, with some people closing their eyes to take in the moment and others filming with their mobile devices. On the other hand, for Sofronio, it was as if he were singing to Bublé by himself, expressing gratitude for the faith that had brought him this far. The crowd jumped to their feet as the final note seemed to linger for much longer. Before Bublé jumped onto the platform with a microphone in his hand, Sofronio had hardly had time to collect his breath. It is time for Sofronio Vasquez to take the spotlight, ladies and gentlemen. As Bublé's voice grew louder, the applause gradually became more intense. In a gesture of brotherly affection, he wrapped his arm over Sofronio's shoulders and pulled him into a hug. At that moment, Bublé turned his attention to the audience and declared, "This guy is the real deal." I was aware of it the instant I heard him perform my song in a way that I could never hope to achieve. The audience chuckled, but Sofronio couldn't help but shake his head, his cheeks turning red. In his microphone, he uttered, "No way, you're coach." "You are the reason I am here," she said. Despite the fact that Bublé dismissed the compliment with a wave, his eyes shone with pride. He motioned to the band and added, "Let's show him what we can do together," indicating the band. The first chords of Sway filled the air, and then the two joined together to perform a duet that sounded like they were having a conversation. The delivery of Bublé was fluid and playful, and it danced around Sofronio's rich and emotional tone. Their voices weaved together in a way that was effortless yet exciting. People in the audience were standing up and clapping along with the rhythm. Some of them even started dancing in the aisles. Even after the performance, the feeling of excitement was still present backstage. After pouring 2 glasses of sparkling water, Bublé remarked, "No champagne, we're keeping it classy," and then he handed one of the glasses to Sofronio. Within the green room, they were seated on a faded leather couch, and the hum of the crowd could still be heard through the walls between them. According to Bublé, who was leaning back, "You know, I've tutored a lot of vocalists, but you? From the very beginning, you possess something very remarkable. Not only was it your voice, but it was also your heart saying it." Uncertain of how to react, Sofronio took a few sips from his drink. "At that time, I was living in constant fear," he acknowledged. "I was afraid that I would completely collapse. On the other hand, you convinced me that I could accomplish this." He laughed out loud. "You're doing the job, fella, but the work was done by you. Right now, you have sold out performances and an album that is just killing it. Indeed, Sofronio, you are more than just a vocalist. You are a storyteller indeed." Sofronio was confronted with the words. Throughout his upbringing, music served as a means of escape for him, a means of processing a childhood that was marked by cultural exile and socio-economic hardships. While he was singing in the choir at his church, he had fantasized of being on stage, but he had never anticipated that it would be this large. Bublé's mentorship had not only provided him with technique, but it had also granted him the authorization to dream more ambitiously. They conversed for a considerable amount of time, exchanging tales about the challenges of celebrity, the pleasures of connecting with fans, and the challenges of living on the road. One of the memories that Bublé related was from his own early days, when he had almost given up after receiving a series of rejections. "It was mentioned by him that someone believed in me. Now it is my turn to carry out that task for you." As the evening drew to a close, Bublé took out his phone and showed Sofronio a video. It was a clip from the final performance of The Voice of Sofronio, in which he sang an original song about his family's journey from the Philippines to the United States. The confession was made by Bublé, "I watch this sometimes. It brings to mind the reason I continue to do this." There was a lump that Sofronio felt in his throat. "Coach, I am at a loss for words to express my gratitude." Bublé congratulated him by tapping him on the shoulder and saying, "You already did. You are currently living it out there. That is sufficient." After the event, social media was ablaze with highlights from the performance the following morning. A combined album between Sofronio and Bublé was called for by fans who remarked about the synergy between the two artists. Sofronio, Vasquez, and Michael Bublé have just revolutionized the concept of vocal magic, according to a post that went viral. While Sofronio was scrolling through the comments, he couldn't help but smile at the outpouring of affection from people all across the world. However, it was neither the acclaim or the headlines that he remembered most vividly from that moment. This insight came about as a result of the quiet conversation that took place in the green room. His trip had gone full circle. Sofronio understood that he was ready to pay it forward since Bublé had recognized something in him when he was only a boy with a dream. And now that he was standing on his own, he was ready to act on that vision. During the time when Sofronio was boarding a plane to make his next tour stop, he reflected on the purpose of the charity event, which was to provide music education to children who, like him, might not have access to education. He made a mental note to establish a scholarship fund, hoping to provide young people with an opportunity to pursue their dreams. The man who had given him his was being honored in a tiny way through this. While Sofronio was flying through the air above Los Angeles, he closed his eyes and sang the word home beneath his breath. There was a change in the tune. It was no longer only a song, but rather a promise. A commitment to continue singing, to continue dreaming, and to continue carrying the flame that Michael Bublé had placed in front of him.